The Maiden of SUGADINTI is the first boss inside the Theater of Blood. Maiden has 4 simple mechanics that we need to understand. The first 2 are her auto attacks. She has a single target, magic-based attack that prioritizes one player standing closest to her. This attack has a chance to lower the level of the combat style your current weapon is. She also has a blood attack that will shoot out pools of blood to every player in the room. Standing in these pools will cause damage every second and will heal Maiden. We dodge this attack by simply moving 1 tile away. Keep in mind that the closer you are standing to her, the quicker the blood pools will reach you. Players that are tanking Maiden will have to move before she starts her attack animation. Otherwise, you will be late every time. The third mechanic Maiden has is that blood spawns will appear randomly in the room and will begin painting the room with blood pools. It is recommended to freeze these spawns and kill them immediately, as the blood pools can become overwhelming very quickly. The last mechanic we need to know about Maiden are the blood spiders, which are also known as crabs. At 70%, 50%, and 30% health, Maiden will spawn red blood spiders that she will attempt to absorb in order to heal herself and increase her damage. We prevent this by freezing the spiders and killing them before they reach Maiden. Let's talk about the roles each player will fill during the boss fight. Most teams are broken down into 2 freezer roles and the DPS role. Let's first focus on the freezer role. The red spiders spawn on both the north and south sides of the room, directly in front of the tunnels on the wall. Using the tunnel entrances is a great reference to recognize which spider has spawned. We break down the room into North 1, North 2, North 3, North 4, and South 1, South 2, South 3, and South 4. The North Freezer is responsible for freezing North 1, 2, and 3. The South Freezer is responsible for freezing South 1, 2, and 4. The South Freezer will also be the dedicated tank for Maiden, so it is important that we bring a small stack of soul runes to heal ourselves off of the red spiders. The red spiders travel a very specific path in order to reach Maiden, and we can take advantage of this by using a clump system. Some of the spiders will stack on top of one another, so we can freeze them all in a clump to maximize our damage dealt. This clump will be about 3 tiles in front of Maiden, just before they reach her. It is important to note that some of the spiders do not stack. North 1, North 2, and South 1 do not clump together. These spiders should be frozen immediately and left to the DPS role to kill. North 3, North 4, South 2, South 3, and South 4 will clump together. Because of this, the North Freezer will actually be freezing the North 3 and South 3 together in the same cast. And the South Freezer will freeze South 4 and North 4 with the same cast. The DPS role is very simple. They are responsible for constantly dealing damage to Maiden and killing the red spiders that are not clumped together. Let's take a look from the perspective of each role during the Maiden fight. Before we start the room, all players should drop their salve amulet and a piece of food on the ground in order to make inventory room for our equipment. All players will start the room by wearing our melee gear and stat reducing weapon. Run into the room with Protect from Magic and our combat boosting prayer on, and immediately dump both of our special attacks into Maiden. It is advised that players with a Bando's Godsword wait until after the Dragon Warhammer specs have been performed before we spec with our BGS to maximize the defense reduction. Players will then switch into their ranged gear, take off their boots, and spread out depending on their role. Let's first focus on the North 1, 2, 3 role. Freezing the north spiders is super easy, but it is very important that we are ready to freeze before they spawn. We want to have our magic gear already equipped and the Ice Barrage spell selected before the spiders spawn. It is important to note that we must have our magic prayer on and our boots off to have a 100% success rate on freezing the spiders with 99 magic. With our mouse already hovering next to the North 1 tunnel entrance, freeze the North 1 spider immediately as it spawns. The timing on freezing the north spiders works out perfect if you are not late freezing the first spider. If we are on time, simply freeze North 2 as soon as you can cast again. Then freeze North and South 3 as soon as you can cast again for the third time. If we did it right, there should be no delay in our casting and the 3 spiders should clump perfectly in the stack. If we were late on freezing, we want to prioritize freezing the 3s. So skip freezing 1 or 2 and focus on landing the freeze for the 3s to minimize the amount Maiden heals. There will be times that a specific spider does not spawn, and that's perfectly okay. Make sure to keep an eye on the 3s. Just because the North 3 does not spawn, there still might be the South 3. So make sure we still freeze this spider into the clump. Once all the spiders have been frozen, help kill the North 1 and 2 spiders, then return focus back on Maiden until we are ready to freeze for the next spawn. The S124 tank roll is very important as you are in charge of soaking all of Maiden's damage and freezing the south spiders. We want to position ourselves as close to Maiden as we can on the south side. Standing within melee distance ensures that we are the closest player to her and that she will target us with her magic attack. Since we are standing so close to Maiden, it is important that our player is already moving every time Maiden performs an attack. This anticipates the blood attack, and since we are actively moving, we will not take damage. Much like the North roll, it is very important that we are ready to freeze the spiders before they spawn. We want to have our magic gear already equipped and the Ice Barrage spell selected before the spiders spawn. It is important to note that we must have our magic prayer on and our boots off to have a 100% success rate on freezing the spiders. With our mouse already hovering next to the South 1 tunnel entrance, freeze the South 1 spider immediately as it spawns. The South 2 spider will be in the clump system as we talked about earlier, so we will want to wait a second to allow the spider to be frozen on roughly the 3rd tile in front of Maiden. The timing of this can be a little tricky to learn, so it's advised to err on the side of caution by freezing earlier rather than later to avoid Maiden healing. The South 3 spider will be frozen by the North freezer, so simply skip this one and focus on freezing the 4s inside the clump. Once all spiders are clumped, players should use the Blood Barrage spell to keep themselves alive. Continue moving and casting until all the spiders are dead, returning focus on Maiden until it is time to freeze the next spawn. The last role players may fill is the DPS role. This role is fairly straightforward. You are responsible for maintaining damage focus on Maiden and killing the red spiders that are not inside the clump. The DPS role will be in charge of triggering Maiden's spider spawn, as the freezers will be ready to freeze the spiders and not attacking Maiden. Since the DPS role is not freezing, players that are okay with not having Ice Barrage for the later rooms can choose to bring Vengeance to venge the tank to help progress the fight. Focus Maiden and kill the spiders until Maiden has been defeated. When a room inside the theater is completed, all players regain full health, prayer, and special attack. Keep in mind that room completion does not turn off any active prayer, nor does it restore any reduced stats. As we exit the Maiden Room, pick up our initial dropped items, turn our prayers off, and then progress into the next boss fight, the Pestilent Blow.